Hello you sexy beasts and welcome back to War Thunder. The hype train for patch 1.79 is fully rolling, with Gaijin having announced 12 vehicles so far, both aircraft and tanks, alongside a couple of modifications, and just recently also the ship CBT. Before we go ahead, the gameplay you're seeing in the background is of the M1 Abrams, and it is a pretty good representation of what top tier tank battles are at the moment, and do relate to the rest of the video somewhat. Let's just say that after waiting 5 minutes to actually get into a match that only had less than 16 players, I immediately got sniped from 2.5 kilometers away into my spawn on this big version of Eastern Europe, which I don't think anyone really likes, just to then get cast before I even made it halfway through the nearest capture point. This is top tier tanks in a nutshell. You either get stomped or you stomp. There's no middle ground. There's no balanced gameplay. That's not the place to look for it. And let's be real here. The majority of you people watching this video right now, you have either never played top tier tanks, and most of you never will reach top tier tanks. Because to get here without spending hundreds of dollars, you need to play this game for years. The grind up to tier 6 is kind of insane, really. So if you're looking forward to it, I'm sorry to burst your bubble, but you're not really missing much. Right, to the topic at hand. Patch 1.79 and my sort of PSA. Cut the hype. I know a lot of people are excited about the Type 90 for the Japanese. Even more people are extremely excited about the Leopard 2A4, one of the most modern tanks ever put into the game. The thing is, I've been in this game long enough to recognize the cycle. This is Gaijin's developing cycle. They announced a couple of really nice stuff for the patch, everyone gets hyped, everyone forgets about every single problem about the game. Then the patch drops, it's a huge mess in balancing, and after a couple of weeks people notice how broken things actually are and they start complaining about stuff, only for the next cycle of dev blocks to start again. Tier 6 top tier tanks honestly were a mistake. The current meta of top tier tanks is just a horrible balance mess. Very similar to what tier 5 jets are at the moment. And trust me, it's only going to get worse if Gaijin's announcements are anything to go by. In this patch there will be 7 new high tier tanks, out of which 3 of them are bundle premiums. There's also 2 modifications of existing tanks, one of which is a premium and one of which is a current top tier rank tank. In fact, out of the 12 vehicles announced so far in dev blocks, 4 are bundle premiums, with only 1 actually being a premium you can buy in game with GE. And that is only because the IAR80, sorry about that, is a user-made model and is part of the revenue share program. Adding to that is another 2 premium destroyers that were announced, well, yesterday by the time this video goes out. I've done the maths, and if you want to buy every premium available without the IAR, because we don't know the G cost of that just yet, and including the ships, and of course accounting for the XM1 having 2 versions which are exclusive to either the PC and PS4 or the Xbox, so you can only buy one of them, you're looking at a price of $230, euros, around that currency. But for what? Let's go over the entire vehicle list so far. For tanks, we have the Type 90 Japanese top tier MBT. Finally something for the Japanese. The Type 74 went from being one of the best tanks when it first came out, and me calling it as such because it was simply just a better Leopard, to really suffering patch after patch after patch, with new and better toys being introduced for every other nations. With the Type 90, Japanese finally have a fighting chance. This tank does look kind of similar to Leopard 2A4. It does have the same 120mm gun, it does have the same, actually better, 30 horsepower per ton power to weight ratio. It also has cookout panels like the Abrams and hydropneumatic suspension. This tank essentially is a mix of all the best aspects of various other tanks, and at least on paper looks like a great competitor. That being said, we'll have to see if Japan can actually manage to have a decent lineup to even be competitive at top tier. even with this tank. For the Brits we have the Chieftain Marksmen. This is very similar to the Gepard and the Type 87 SPAA with the twin 35mm cannons and radar. But instead of being put on a hull of a Leopard 1, this one is put on the hull of a Chieftain, which is quite a bit slower. Should have decent armor from the front, then again at top tier your armor won't really save you too much. And just expect that you can't move around as quickly as you can in the Gepard and the Type 87, and as such it is slightly worse for anti-tank use. You're going to have a harder time to actually get on the flanks of enemy tanks. That said, it is still great for anti-air. The Americans get the XM803, which despite being a prototype tank is going to be put in the regular tech tree. This is essentially a worse MBT-70 without the 20mm cannon on the rooftop and with a weaker engine. I think 1250 horsepower instead of the 1500 horsepower that the MBT-70 gets. It's probably going to have a lower battle rating than the MBT-70, but if it's going to be 8.7 and if it's most likely will have stock heat, it honestly might as well be dead on release. I'm not expecting too much out of this tank. Unless it somehow magically is 8.3, at which point it might be a very competitive tank, don't expect to do too well, especially not until you get APF SDS. Finally, for the free tanks, we have the Leopard 2A4. Oh boy. This is apparently the biggest hype tank for this patch, especially for the Germans. Honestly, just every wearaboo's wet dream. It essentially improves upon the existing Leopard 2K platform with actually good composite armor. I know. Other than that, it does have the same cannon, it does have worse power to weight ratio due to the heavier weights, and it also doesn't have the 20mm cannon on the rooftop. But since it is more recent, it might or might not get better shells. We'll have to wait for the dev server to check that out. On to the premiums. The Brits get a rank 5 premium, finally, the Centurion IVRE. This honestly looks like something out of Mad Max. It is a Centurion with a 165mm cannon firing hash. It has explosive reactive armor everywhere, and it has a bulldozer scoop in the front, which probably acts as spaced armor as well. Which combined with the ERA should make this tank mostly immune to chemical shells. From the research I've done, the hash shell of the AVRE has slightly less filler than the FV405, but should still have around 200mm of penetration if not more. And it's also on a armored platform and likely faster reload. It's probably still going to be a meme tank, not exactly competitive, but honestly it's kind of interesting. I might grab myself one. You probably want to hear my opinion about the XM1s. We're going to save that for last, alright? I'm definitely not angry about these things. Let's instead cover the aircraft first. First, the P40F. Honestly, this is my personal star of the patch. I love myself some P40s, they're just beautiful, beautiful aircraft. In fact, the P40 is the reason why I started playing War Thunder 5 years ago. The P40F has a 1300 horsepower Packard V1650 engine, which is a license-built version of the British Merlin engine, and essentially a G-tuned engine that's found on the P51D Mustangs as well. It's essentially the same engine but with a weaker supercharger. The weaker supercharger also means that this aircraft is not great for high altitude, but is much better than the P40E currently in game for low to medium altitudes. Depending on the battle ratings, it might actually be a really great contender for both CAS and the air defense roles. Honestly, I'm really excited for it. This is really the aircraft I'm looking forward to the most. I'm going to get myself one of these things. Next we have another American aircraft for the French. The F4U7. This is essentially an F4U4B, but with even more ordnance. It can carry up to 114 SNEB heat rockets with 300mm of penetration, as well as the T10 rockets that the French jets generally get. This aircraft honestly looks great for CAS. I'm probably going to incorporate it into my French 7.3 lineup. I'm looking forward to it. The Japanese also get an aircraft, although one I don't think many people will give any kind of fought too. The Ki-32 is a low-tier Japanese single-engine light bomber. Finally, no more twin-engine Japanese plane memes. It's rank 1, there's not really much to say about it, and honestly I'm not very interested in it. It apparently can carry up to 450 kilograms worth of bombs, but likely in 150 kilogram bombs, so yeah. It also only gets rifle caliber armament. It doesn't look too interesting for CAS, but time will tell. On to premiums. As I mentioned before, the IAR-81C. This is an indigenous Romanian aircraft, the first Romanian aircraft in the game. The model is made by players and incorporated through the revenue share program. This is going to be a GE Premium Rank 2 aircraft in the Italian tech tree. It has two 20mm German cannons, the MG151, as well as some machine guns. And it looks like a rather fun low-tier fighter with decent speed and maneuverability, as well as great firepower with apparently lots of ammo. I will look into it when the patch drops, it does seem rather interesting. But we'll have to see how it actually fares against other aircraft. Finally, the Frankenstein monster of this patch, the Bf-109Z Zwilling. It looks rather interesting for collectors, but not much else, at least not on paper. The concept is similar to the F-82, just instead of two P-51s you have two Bf-109s stuck together, but it is worse in almost every single way. It is slower, heavier and less maneuverable than the regular 109, with a slower turn rate, slower acceleration, slower top speed, slower climb rate. And unlike the F-82, which has two pilots, the 109Z only has one pilot, which does make a difference in head-ons. It also only has 4 of the low-velocity Mk108 30mm cannons, which are less than reliable at the moment and mostly useless for CAS, and worst of all, the guns are mounted very far apart. 2 of them are mounted, one each through the propeller hub of each of the aircraft, so to speak, and the other 2 are mounted in gun pods under the outside wings. There's no armament in the middle of the wings like there is in the F-82. As such, don't expect any precision shooting with this thing. It's going to be a shotgun. You have to get very close to get any kind of hits in. It does seem to carry bombs, so it might yet have some use for CAS. But other than that, it's purely for bomber hunting. That said, there is a rumor floating about that 30mm cannons are going to be buffed next patch, so I'll hold off my judgment until the patch drops. We'll have to see how the damage works out. If the cannons get more reliable, then maybe this aircraft has some kind of chance. But as it stands right now, this is a more collector piece for 30 euros than it is really something competitive. There's also 2 modifications to existing vehicles, the first one being to the Magach 3, the premium American tank that was released last patch. The Magach 3 is getting explosive reactive armor and smoke grenades. It honestly won't make too much of a difference most likely, but hey, it's a free upgrade to a premium tank that many people already own, so I'm not going to complain about it. The T-64B, Russia's current top tier tank, also gets an upgrade in the ERA package, which turns it into the T-64BV. This is not a whole new tank, this is just a researchable module. And honestly, I'm kind of scared of this one. T-64B already is a very good tank. Not the best out of all the new tanks that were introduced in the last patch, but very good in its own right. Now, one of the current weaknesses it does have is heat from the Leopard 2K. Even though Leopard 2Ks are mostly on its team, if it does face the Germans in those rare moments, it is weak against Leopard 2K's heat. That said, vehicles with stock heat like the XYZ-70s already has massive issues against the T-64B. Now, with the ERA, even the Leopard 2K's heat shell won't do anything against it anymore. Anything else that has heat is pretty much even more useless now, even from this side. And I have a feeling that if the Leopard 2A4 also gets stock heat FS, the German teams might have some real trouble with T-64Bs for a while, if they aren't on the same team as it is. But honestly, the Americans with the X803, those are going to have even more problems. That thing is almost guaranteed to have stock heat and ATGMs, which are useless. Oh, by the way, T-64BV is also going to be pretty much immune to the Raketnya Panzer II HOT, another one of the few things that could reliably pen this thing. And finally, what really makes me angry. This is where I have to stop being happy about the new introductions. This really rustles my jimmies. You know how the M1 Abrams was so hyped and strong that it was limited to only being played by 4 players in any given match? Well, if you don't want to go through the insane grind of getting one, now you can just buy the prototype! Hooray! And not only one, but 2. One of them being an Xbox exclusive. Console exclusives, isn't that great? Seriously, what the actual duck is wrong with Gaijin? This is wargaming levels of greed. Okay, sure. The tanks are worse than the Tech Tree M1 Abrams. I'll give them that. That isn't the point. They know that thousands of wallet warriors are going to throw their $50, which it costs to get one of these things in a bundle because you can't buy the tank by itself, and they're going to flood the matchmaker. Actual skill or balance be damned. Depending on the battle rating, which I can't imagine this thing not being at least 9.0 to 9.3, American win rates are either going to plummet due to the incredible influx of players who have no actual clue of what they are doing with the tank, which is likely the only one they even have that is even remotely close to this battle rating, given that it takes years to even get to these tanks. Or we are going to see a repeat of the first weeks of patch 1.77 with just a horde of M1s just rolling through the poor lower tier tanks that had no hope of doing anything against them. Mark my words here. Patch 1.79 is going to be even more of a mess than top tier tanks currently already are. This is top tier jets all over again. Except that now you can, on day 1, just buy yourself into the top tier matchmaker on a completely fresh account. Let me repeat that. Someone who has never once played War Thunder can now simply create an account, spend $50 and be put into top tier matches alongside players who've spent years to get here. You can make your own conclusions as to how that is going to pan out. Any kind of balance be damned. This is a complete and utter cash grab. Now, don't get me wrong, I love this game. I've been playing it since 2013. That's 5 years that I've put into this game. War Thunder has allowed me to make a career out of doing videos about the game on YouTube. I've been able to afford my dream PC setup, all thanks to this game. I've made friends from all around the world and created an awesome community, all thanks to War Thunder. I wanted this game to succeed. I wanted to make a profit. I want Gaijin to flourish as a company. But this is wrong. This is unacceptable. Their greed has been getting progressively worse. First it was the unreasonable grind of ground forces that just got worse and worse, with more higher tier tanks being introduced without any real adjustment to the RP ratios that have been pretty much the same since the beta. Not even mentioning the idiocy of parts and fire prevention equipment still being essential modules that you have to research on every single tank that you unlock. The grind is entirely designed around frustrating people enough into spending money on GE to make it more sufferable. But I can somewhat live with that. This is a free-to-play game. There has to be some incentive to pay. Not the way I would do it, not the most customer-friendly way to do it, but after years and years of this, we've been kind of getting used to it. Then they introduced the marketplace, which I was absolutely furious at. The marketplace, instead of just offering cosmetics, like it should, it allows you to gamble for rare vehicles which are still being sold for hundreds of dollars each. Yeah, do you remember how the KV220 went for $800? It's still going for $300 each. In fact, it's the ME262A2A that is now the most expensive vehicle, with the last example having been sold for $700. Gaijin is taking a cut out of each and every single trade, each and every key they sell to the loot boxes. And each and every Gaijin coin is money they've already received. I'm not even kidding when I'm saying they've probably made tens if not hundreds of thousands of dollars off of the marketplace alone. But apparently that isn't enough. There just need to be more ways to wrench the money out of the whales. The state of the game or health of the player base be damned. Who cares about maintaining a healthy player base, right? You know, Gaijin offered me to take part in their affiliate program. I would be getting a link to their store to put in my description, unique link, and I would get a cut out of each and every sale they made by anyone who clicked that link. And honestly, I would probably make quite a bit of money from the premium sales each patch. I got the contract right here in front of me, ready to be signed, but honestly I've been torn about actually accepting it for the past weeks. With them now selling top tier tanks through bundles, I think I'm just going to refuse it. I'm not going to support these practices. I will lose a lot of potential earnings. I could make a lot of money from the link, and I would probably get on the shit list. But I'd rather take that than go against my love for this game. I love War Thunder, and I want it to continue for many years to come with a growing player base. I want everyone to have the experience that I have had over the last 5 years. But these decisions of Gaijin are hurting the game. They're flat out just hurting the game. They're sacrificing the health of the player base and the balance of the game and the long-term health of the game itself for short-term gains. I'll continue doing my thing. I'll continue giving you guys guides and passing my knowledge along. In fact, I have a couple of guides planned for the near future that you guys will probably find quite helpful. I will still continue also reviewing premium tanks and aircraft, maybe, that I deem interesting and fair. I might even go into the ships, since the closed beta is launching with patch 1.79. But do not expect me to be doing videos on the XM1s. I'll be sticking to the medium and high tiers, where the game is actually fun and mostly balanced. Where the grind isn't mind-numbing and designed to frustrate you into pain. I might even do a review on the Leopard 2A4 and the Type 90 just to get it over, but honestly for the rest, top tier tanks for me are going the same way top tier jets did. I quit top tier jets due to the balancing issues that still have not been fixed. I've quit aircraft in general due to the absolute neglect of the realistic air mode. And I guess now I'll also have to quit top tier tanks due to the pure greed of Gaijin and their decisions to make the game even more unbalanced and unfair at this point. It's just a cash grab. It's an absolute cash grab. Maybe I'm too worried. I can already foresee the comments like every single video I do with this kind of theme, where people say I'm just way too negative, but I've been mostly right. I've been mostly right about this. Not to my own horn here, but remember during the dev server for patch 1.77, how I warned you guys about the M1 Abrams, how it was going to mess with the balance of the game, how top tier tanks in general were going to mess with the balance of the game? I received a lot of comments telling me I was wrong, I was just a doomsayer. It was Russian bias, the T-64B was clearly going to be the best tank of the game. There was no issue with the Abrams. In fact, the M1 Abrams was underpowered. It should have been buffed. It should have more armor and the top depleted uranium shell that can just low pen anything. Well, we saw how that went, right? I guess that all that I can say with this video really is to tell you guys and ask you guys to not buy the XM1s. Just don't. Don't support us. Hundreds, if not thousands of people are still going to do that. But if you really care about the health of the game, if you really care about actually having a great tank, because trust me, even if you do pay the XM1, if you don't have the experience, if you're currently in tier 3s or 4s, which most of you probably are, you're not going to have fun in tier 6. You just aren't. The gameplay is completely different. You cannot buy your way into performing well at top tier. And you're not going to be helping out your teammates either. If you really want to support the game, if you want to spend your money on something that's actually fun, I can recommend you some premiums. You can ask me, guys, like honestly, in the comment section down below, tell me a nation and tier that you're looking for premiums for, and I'm going to tell you some good options. Options that are both good, because they're good and help you actually progress in the game and develop your skills, and that are actually fun to play. But please, do not support the practice of just buying your way into top tier. But anyways lads, that's my rant done. That got really somber, holy crap. I will of course be doing videos and streams on the dev server once that goes live. That is if I don't suddenly mysteriously disappear or be found dead by suicide with 2 bullets in the back of my head. Gaijin, please. I will be looking at some of the new vehicles in the new patch. I will continue looking at some of the older vehicles as well. I'm not quite decided on what next to do for the War Thunder Classics just yet. I have to go through the comments to see that. But I have a couple of guides planned that you guys might enjoy. Also, if you can't get enough of my voice and want to hear me speaking more German, I've appeared in Squire's latest video, as usual. You can check it out in the link in the description down below. Let me know I've sent you. And yeah, it's going to be it for this video. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed this video. Do let me know in the comment section down below what you think about this whole thing, what you think about the grind, what you think about the marketplace, and lastly, what you think about Gaijin just flat out selling top tier tanks. And before you go, yes, I know it's a tier 5, but the rank doesn't actually mean anything. It's a battle rating, alright? This tank, the XM1, is most likely going to be put up into number 10 battles. You just know it. Alright, enough. My name is MikeGoesBoom, and as always, thank you for watching.
You can lift your head up to the sky, take a deeper breath and give it time. You can walk the path among the lines, with your shattered frame of mind. Or instead you could always stay, we can wait right here and play, until somehow you can find